What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to become more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interest.
Let us identify the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of For Your Misinformation. Today, I am joined by Sam, who is a physician in the Chicago area at one of the top Chicago hospitals. Hi, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's a little weird out here right now, but it's okay.
Yeah, it is definitely weird. Before we start, do you want to tell everybody, all the listeners, how you and I met?
Sure. So we were randomly assigned roommates in college freshman year.
Yay!
And we stayed roommates all 4 years, partly because we found all the same people on our floor annoying.
Actually, yeah,
sure.
Good point. That is true.
That was our first bounding. That and we have the same favorite numbers.
Oh, yeah. And we were both female athlete of the year at our high schools.
I forgot that one.
Yeah. No, we got lots in common. But yeah, no, we were just very luckily assigned to be roommates somewhat randomly. I mean, there is like a questionnaire and shit, but like, yeah. So yeah, we have known each other quite a long time now. I think like 11 years.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
I've been in school training for 11 more years since freshman year of college.
Yeah. And I remember, I think it was sophomore year when you took like a lot of time to like very seriously think about whether you actually wanted to pursue being a physician, because obviously it is a ton of work and money and school and all of that stuff.
It is all those things, but here I am.
Yeah.
On the other side.
I'm very proud of you. Okay. Okay. Do you remember your first impression of me?
Oh my goodness. I honestly don't.
Okay. I think I do.
Oh no. What was it?
Oh no. We got along. Right away.
You remember my first impression of you?
I think so. I have a guess. Just that I like very much overshare.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. Okay. But that was like that first impression. That was like first couple days.
Yeah.
Impression.
Yeah. No,
okay.
I think, we hit it off well. Like people on our floor like asked us if we were friends before college even. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
What did that one girl say? If we were biffles?
Oh my God, that was it! Biffles! And we were like, yep, okay, never talking to you again. Moving on.
Yeah. That happened.
That's right. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, yes. Okay, so I guess the first thing that I want to ask, is there anything that you want to make sure people know that you feel like maybe isn't getting across right now?
Let's see. I think there's a lot of information out there. I think the most important things, and everybody knows about quarantine and isolation. If you haven't heard about that, you live in a hole.
Yeah.
But I think I'm still seeing a lot, even just today on, social media, I'm seeing people posting that this is all an overreaction, that this is all ridiculous, that this is all just mainstream media hyping things up, and that is absolutely not true. My work flow has entirely changed over the past week. We are making changes and precautions every day, and this is not just a thing that the media is playing up. We are taking it very seriously, and we need everybody else to take it very seriously because we're kind of putting ourselves on the line every day. Some physicians more so than me, and nurses and other staff. I'm lucky enough to be in anesthesia, so I'm mostly in the operating room. Yeah. But those people in the emergency departments or in the ICUs taking care of those actually COVID-19 infected patients are putting themselves at risk every single day.
Yeah.
And to see people like make light of it is really disappointing.
Yeah. And dangerous.
That too.
Is there a chance or probability that once hospitals start getting overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients that you will do less anesthesiology stuff and more COVID-19 related things?
It is definitely a possibility. As anesthesiologists, we are the ventilator experts. That's what we do all day, every day, is we manage ventilated patients in the operating room. And so outside of, ICU physicians, we're the next in line really to be equipped to handle that. So they have already kind of made changes into our call structure for if that is to happen. So yeah, we're definitely expecting, especially since elective OR cases are canceled, we are a little bit more free to do those kind of things and assist in that kind of way.
Gotcha. What did you say that you, before we started recording, that you did earlier today?
Well, yesterday I just witnessed my first airway of a, COVID-19 rule out patient, which is just a little bit of a different procedure to intubate them than it is standard kind of regular old patient.
Gotcha. So when I donated my kidney, I was intubated, right?
Absolutely, yes.
That sucked. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good for a while. And I'm sure that nobody else is going to like it either. So I don't know, just fucking be careful. But not you, just everybody. Okay, that's good to know. How are you doing just like knowing that it's basically an inevitability that you will end up developing COVID-19?
Honestly, I hadn't thought about it for a while until my friends and family started texting me and asking me if I was okay. And that kind of made me realize that it's not just normal everyday work that I'm going through right now, because it's easy to kind of fall into that just, this is what I do, this is my job, and not think about it very much.
Yeah.
But I'm okay. I think, like I said, I'm fortunate enough that there's a good chance I won't develop it, that I will avoid any kind of serious exposure just because of the way our workflow is, and the precautions that we take. But I'm also kind of chalking it up to, we'll just see what happens, and I'm just going to do my job no matter what.
Yeah. So what will you do if you do start to show symptoms? Quarantine for 14 days?
Yes. So if any of us, any resident, any physician, any healthcare worker develops symptoms, we are quarantined. We are not allowed to come into work. It is an excused absence in terms of like our requirements to complete residency.
Gotcha.
Especially if it is a work-related or daily activity-related exposure.
Okay, well, that's good. Is this something that you thought might be a possibility during medical school, like in the event of a natural disaster or a pandemic or something like that, that you might have to, I don't know, just be on the front lines, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know that anyone thought that this was a possibility. This is something, the lengths that we're taking to avoid this, I think, are a little bit unheard of. Like, I don't know that there's ever been an entire slew of sports seasons canceled at the same time and all events canceled. Like, that's something that definitely hasn't happened in our lifetime, and I don't know that it's happened in anyone that we know's lifetime. So I don't think you could have expected that. I expected to be exposed to things that other people weren't, but this is definitely not a situation I could have foreseen.
Yeah. I think I might have asked this a little bit, but are there any other ways that your particular hospital is changing procedures or changing things around to prepare? Like, what's happening in your emergency rooms? Is there a separate entrance for people who think they might have COVID-19, or what's going on?
So our hospital has made a lot of adjustments. In general, I'm not going to be the most knowledgeable in terms of emergency room changes and that kind of stuff. Yesterday was actually the first time I had been down in the ER since all of this has started. But we have drive-up testing now.
That's good.
Which is not open to everybody. You have to be physician screened before you can go to it. But we do have that. And I know just walking around the emergency department, I could tell you almost everyone in there had a mask on, just kind of prophylactically.
Good.
And they have, in terms of changes that we've made in general, I know we have put anesthesia ventilators in our PACU, which is our post-anesthesia recovery unit. And they are preparing to turn that into an ICU and move regular ICU patients into our PACU in case they have to open up another ICU devoted to the COVID-19 patients.
Gotcha.
And beyond that, they're even prepared to use our operating rooms as negative pressure rooms for more COVID patients if that was necessary. It's something that I believe happened in Italy and may still be going on because they're still having a lot of deaths daily.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was yesterday or today, but the total number of deaths in Italy already surpassed the total number of deaths in China. And we're on a much closer track to what's happening in Italy than we are to what's happening in China, because correct me if I'm wrong, and Ben can take this out if it is wrong, but in China, they had a lot of tests. They were testing a ton of people. And if you tested positively, you went to a coronavirus camp, which sounds sad, but it's not. It's just a place where people who have the virus go to recover. And there was like daily yoga and shit there. I mean, not everybody could participate, but like it wasn't a depressing place to be. We, at least right now, are telling people to go quarantine in their homes where their family also lives. So I think that's another reason that like China had a really like proactive response, and the rest of the world seems to not be quite so much that way.
I cannot confirm or deny those statements. I don't know that much detail about what went on in China, but I can say just from kind of impressions, like China seems to be a much more regimented country, and kind of people do what the government says. And unfortunately, for better or for worse, America is not that place. Yeah. As you could tell by those videos of those kids at spring break, just talking about how they don't care and they're going to party. This is their one spring break. We don't always take everything the government and health officials advise seriously. So I can definitely foresee this getting out of hand worse than it was in China, just for that reason alone. That people aren't going to take it seriously until it's a little bit too late.
And it took quite a long time for our president to take it seriously, and that certainly doesn't help either.
It does not, but let's not get started on that.
Okay, I mean, it's a little bit what this whole podcast is about, but fine.
I know.
Okay, well, good. What else did I want to ask you?
Okay.
So you're not really like diagnosing patients, but what kind of role is anesthesiology playing in this whole thing?
So currently at my hospital, the anesthesiologists perform every intubation outside of the emergency department. So for those of you that don't know, intubating is basically when you put a breathing tube into patients and then connect them to a ventilator so that you can basically breathe for them. In this case, for the duration of kind of this disease process until they can breathe normally without the assistance of a ventilator. And that is probably one of the most high-risk procedures you can do in these patients because it's an aerosolized virus, and we are putting our faces in these people's airways and putting a breathing tube in there. Manipulating the airway, just kind of causing more virus to float around. So we've taken it very seriously. It's actually restricted for our institution, just attendings and fellows are involved in these airways. I was involved yesterday, literally just in standing outside of the room and handing them anything extra that they may need. But it's an entire process, it's called donning and doffing, putting all this gear on. So to don all of this gear takes 5 to 7 minutes, because you have to do everything appropriately. You have to get the gown, you have to get the gloves, you have to have a face shield, you have to have the N95 mask, and everyone on the team has to kind of go through that process. So what we are doing actually is anytime a patient gets to higher oxygen requirements, then we can just kind of give with a nasal cannula, or they start to hit the highest level we can get through a nasal cannula. We are basically just intubating them because we expect them to get worse, and we don't have those other options that we normally have, because things like BiPAP or other like non-invasive ventilation devices is just going to spread the virus around more. So it's not an option. So you hit that point and they wind up intubated. And a lot of these patients develop pretty bad lung disease, and it becomes difficult to ventilate them.
Yeah. So how many patients do you have on ventilators in your hospital right now?
Related to COVID-19, not related to other things, I would guess at least 20.
Okay.
Do you know? There could be more because it's changing every day.
Right. And you have the day off today.
And I have the day off today, lucky me. So yeah, we're at least 20.
So that means that there's 20 that it's gotten bad enough that they need to be ventilated.
Yeah, they're in it's gotten to the point for some of them that one of the strategies you do is you actually put people on their stomach, and that's only with really, really bad kind of ARDS, which is a type of lung disease, that we do that. And I know we have at least a couple patients like that. So it's serious.
Yeah.
I believe most of the patients are older. I am not personally taking care of any of them, but there are some younger ones as well. Nobody's really immune to this.
Right. So young people are more likely to experience like symptoms that aren't as bad, but that is like not to say at all that young people don't experience bad symptoms. Right. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of like how many ventilators you have in the hospital, like how many are in use and how many do you think you have left? Like when do you're just operating under the assumption that you are eventually going to run out of ventilators, right?
Absolutely. I'm not sure what our exact number is. I have no idea. But I do believe that we're kind of hitting the upper limit of our regular ventilators. I know we ordered more earlier this week.
Good.
Not sure if that has arrived or not. And then we are very prepared to use anesthesia machines as ventilators if this progresses the way we kind of expect it to.
Yeah. Have any of the staff, I know you've been having like calls about how to handle this and stuff, but have you talked about how to like, I don't know, is triage the right word? Just decide like who gets a ventilator and who doesn't if it gets bad enough?
Fortunately, I don't think we are the ones making those calls. Fortunately for us, unfortunately for the physicians who are in charge of that. It hasn't come to that at our institution yet, so I'm not sure. It sounds like it's happening in other places.
Yeah.
And I've even heard rumors, again, I don't know if this is true at all, but that once they're making these patients kind of almost DNR by default because it would be so dangerous for healthcare personnel to go in there and run a code in a COVID-19 room. Which is terrifying and scary. And again, not necessarily 100% true, but something that kind of seems reasonable in an incredibly sad way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what I've been trying, I feel like, to get across is to those like spring breakers that you're talking about. And like other people who think that this kind of like very strict isolation doesn't necessarily apply to them, is that you are asymptomatic. If you're exposed to the virus, you may or may not develop COVID-19. But if you're exposed to it, you might not get symptoms for up to 14 days. Most people show symptoms sooner, but the responsible, patriotic thing to do is to take all means necessary to self-quarantine to make sure that those symptoms don't show up for 14 days. And if you're not taking steps to do that, on average, you will spread this disease to 2 to 3 people before you even realize you're sick. And that is just unacceptable to me. I don't understand how people can go around like operating their lives as if that's not, like, you are not immune to statistics. You are, I mean, hopefully there are people who are spreading it to 0, but if on average people are spreading it to 2 to 3, then if you spread it to 0, somebody else is probably spreading it to 6 because they didn't want to cancel their spring break. So I don't know, just don't be that person.
Yeah, it's incredibly disappointing to see people just not able to think critically or to think about anyone
but themselves.
Kind of but themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately, it's just a selfish decision.
Right.
And I guess, I'm sure it's not just kids either. It's not just young people.
True.
It's just, I don't know if they just don't know anyone it's affecting, or they think that nobody they know will be affected, but it still is just a selfish decision. It's easy to stay in for a couple of weeks and just do the necessary thing.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a great time of year.
Exactly.
Like, just hang out.
Yeah.
Just hang out in your house.
Yeah. I did have a teletherapy session earlier today, which was very much needed because I'm just in general a pretty anxious person, and this has made that exponentially worse. He recommended that I try not to take Xanax every day, which is hilarious. Sorry, Dave. But but he did say 2 things that I think are helpful, and like maybe here's some free therapy if anybody wants it, is you can go outside. Like, the virus is not, this isn't Bird Box. Like, you can go outside. You just have to try and remain 6 feet away from the closest person, so I've been walking. I mean, I live in the suburbs. You live in the city. I've been like walking my dog. Nobody comes within 6 feet or even close. And it's like really cleared my head. And so I don't want people to think that like outside is bad. It's just coming within a certain distance of people is bad.
Absolutely. Because there's no way I can sit in a 1-bedroom apartment for 14 days. But outside is okay. Just take those precautions. And I know that you have harped on this and you're taking it very seriously, but like, wash your hands when you come back in from outside. Yep. Like, you have inevitably touched doors and touched things, and just taking those little extra precautions that in everyday life may not be necessary can just make a big difference right now.
Yeah. And that's especially like when you are outside of the comfort of your home, that is when you have to be really vigilant about not touching your face. Once you've come back in and you've washed your hands, and make sure you're doing it right. Like, make sure you're like getting your fingertips under your fingernails, washing the back of your hands, in between each finger, each thumb, like taking it seriously for at least 20 seconds with warm water. But like, once that happens, you don't have to be crazy about touching your face. I mean, I wouldn't like put, at that point, like, you're pretty safe. I mean, all those memes about how people like cannot stop touching their faces, that's, if you are doing like strict isolation, that's really not that big of a deal. It's just when you are out and about that you have to be like really conscious. Keep your hands the fuck away from your face. If you have an itch, like, use your sleeve or something.
Yeah, and it does take a mental effort, but we can't escape the coronavirus and all the kind of talk about it, so it shouldn't be that hard to remember.
Yeah. At your hospital right now, do you know if everybody who needs a test can get a test?
From what I understand, there's still a screening process. Okay. I think if any hospital workers have any type of cold and flu symptoms, they can absolutely get tested.
Okay.
But again, I'm not my role is not to administer these tests or
Right.
decide who gets them, so I'm not the most knowledgeable on that.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Last question, I believe, and this is a much less serious question. What is your pettiest quarantine complaint?
My personal pettiest?
Yes.
Or the pettiest I've heard?
Your personal pettiest. And nothing's too petty.
Let's see. I think today what I said was just I don't even have the mental stamina to think about stockpiling groceries right now. It just it seems like I just don't want to. I still have to go out to work every day.
Right.
Do I really have to stockpile everything?
So for you, stockpiling would be just in case you do end up developing symptoms and you have to stay in your apartment for 14 days. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Or just to beat the masses right now at this point. Or if anything were to change and things were even more restricted.
Yeah. My pettiest complaint, and I do realize this is very petty and also very solvable, I just am choosing not to do it, is that, so my boyfriend and I are quarantined apart. He is quarantined in his apartment with his brother. I am quarantined in my home with my very immunocompromised mother and stepdad, who are doing everything in our power to protect her, because she is one of the most vulnerable populations. But so that means I haven't seen him for quite a while, and I won't see him for quite a while, which is really sad. But before we were isolated apart, my computer defaults to the wrong Wi-Fi, and he was gonna fix it. He was gonna
Goodness.
He was gonna fix it and make it so that it defaulted to the correct Wi-Fi instead of my printer. And he didn't do it, and now I'm not gonna see him for a long time. And I have to keep clicking the correct Wi-Fi, which is also named Vote Blue No Matter Who.
That is true. That is the pettiest complaint, I think.
Thank you.
I've heard.
Thank you.
That takes the cake. Now it makes me feel like I need something pettier, but I'm very well made to come home from work and just sit and watch TV all day. I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
Good.
I do wish the gyms were open.
Yeah. I get it.
I understand it would be very hard.
Yeah.
But I just need to exercise a little bit.
And you like running though, right?
Yeah, I ran today, but it's cold. I don't like running in the cold.
True. Morgan runs in the cold. Morgan's a weirdo. I mean, I respect it, but
I mean, people will run in 10 degrees, but just ain't no way.
Yeah.
And on the lake, it's just always so windy.
True. True. Okay.
It's not my favorite form of exercise.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Well, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we go ahead and end this wonderful interview?
I don't think I have anything else to add. Thank you for thinking I'm important enough to have on your podcast. I appreciate it.
You're a fucking doctor, of course. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you for joining us. As always, please subscribe, rate, and review. It gets the word out. I know we have actually a lot more followers this week, which is exciting. So hello to everybody. But yeah, thank you.
Quarantine's got those podcast subscriptions right up.
I know. I mean, I don't want to minimize the problem, but it has been good for this podcast. So yeah. So thanks for answering my questions. Yeah, go ahead. Keep listening. We'll keep posting interviews with people who we think are relevant. The next one coming up is an occupational therapist who works at a skilled nursing facility, who can talk to us about the kind of precautions they're taking there and what they're worried about there. And then Morgan and I will continue to produce other episodes that are not so COVID-19 related, so that we don't all have to this doesn't have to be the only thing we're thinking about. So yes, that's what my therapist said. Go for walks, and then also try not to consume too much of the news, because chances are you understand what the fuck is going on and what you need to do. So, okay, well, don't hang up, but I'm going to end the podcast. Okay. Yeah, so thank you for joining us, and I love you, and I'm very proud of you.
Oh, I love you too.
Okay.
I'm proud of you, Miss Podcast Lady.
Okay. Not the same, but thank you.
Not the same. All right.
Have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye. Make sure you follow along on Instagram at FYMI Pod. Shout out to Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
Please subscribe to this podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and review. It makes us easier for other people to find us, and the more of us there are, the better. We come out with new episodes every Monday.